Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we're embarking on a journey into the heart of one of the most ambitious and surprisingly profound reboots in recent history, with a look at 2011's Rise of the Planet of the Apes. When we hear the words reboot and apes taking over the world, one might think we're heading into a territory that's been overtrodden, filled with clichés and mindless spectacle. But this film, penned by the dynamic duo Jaffa and Amanda Silva, is not monkeying around. It's a cinematic endeavor that dares to swing through the vines of deep, thought-provoking themes, while packing a punch with its action and emotional depth. Directed by Rupert Wyatt, a filmmaker who, prior to this, was known for his more understated work like The Escapist, the film marked a significant leap in both his career and the art of filmmaking. What Wyatt brings to the table is a remarkable blend of storytelling finesse and technological innovation, demonstrating an uncanny ability to handle a large-scale project, balancing the demands of a blockbuster with the sensitivity of a character-driven drama. His process on the film was a unique amalgamation of meticulous planning and embracing the innovative strides in motion capture technology, which played a pivotal role in bringing the apes to life, enabling Rise to swing past many expectations as both a critical and commercial juggernaut. It not only garnered acclaim for its innovative use of technology and compelling narrative, but also raked in a significant box office haul, far exceeding its budget and paving the way for its equally impressive sequels. The film didn't just use motion capture, it revolutionized it, effectively allowing for an unprecedented level of emotional expression for non-human characters, bridging the gap between animation and live action in ways previously unimagined. It's a cleverly crafted narrative that weaves together the threads of scientific ambition, ethical dilemmas, and the complexities of freedom and oppression. It's about as subtle as a gorilla in a china shop, but it's got the brains of a chimpanzee and the heart of an orangutan, diving into a story that challenges our very notions of what it means to be human, what it means to communicate, and what happens when the oppressed decide they've had enough. The script, a rare gem in the world of reboots and sequels, manages to take a premise that could easily have descended into B-movie territory and elevates it into something that's both intellectually and emotionally engaging. It's a tightrope walk of narrative skill, balancing character development, plot progression, and thematic exploration with the grace of a trapeze artist. As we break down this beast of a film, we'll delve into how it reimagines the lore of the Planet of the Apes, analyze its characters, and the science behind the Simian flu virus that ravages humanity. Beginning with a prologue set in the jungle, we witness the brutal capture of a chimpanzee for research as her saddened family look on helplessly. We're then whisked away to Genesis, a vanguard of genetic therapy, where the scientific odyssey begins. Here, the female ape, dubbed Number 9, emerges as a beacon of progress. Infused with a revolutionary drug, ALZ-112, she exhibits an enviable tranquility and sociability, diverging from her primal counterparts. Her intellectual prowess shines as she begins mastering the Towers of Hanoi puzzle, a true testament to her enhanced cognition. Enter Will Rodman, portrayed with earnest zeal by James Franco, a visionary scientist who persuades his boss Steve Jacobs, a compelling David Oyelowo, of the drug's potential. A dedicated and compassionate researcher working at Genesis, Will is driven by a personal mission to find a cure for Alzheimer's, motivated by his father's struggle with the disease. And James Franco brings a blend of intensity and vulnerability to the role, capturing the passion of a researcher and the emotional turmoil of a son watching his father's decline. Rodman's pitch to the board of directors at Genesis is nothing short of a scientific serenade, outlining the drug's miraculous ability to spur neurogenesis, a rare phenomenon, promising a solution for illnesses like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
In biology, this is called neurogenesis. Here at Genesis, we call it the cure to Alzheimer's.
The only visible telltale sign of the drug's influence, of course, is the mystical green sparkle in the subject's eyes, leading them to calling Number 9 Bright Eyes. ALZ-112 represents a significant leap in neuroscientific research and is portrayed as a gene therapy drug, implying that it works on the genetic level. Gene therapy typically involves the insertion, alteration, or removal of genes within an individual's cells to treat diseases. In the case of ALZ-112, it introduces genetic material that promotes the growth and repair of neurons. The primary function of ALZ-112 is to stimulate neurogenesis, the process of generating new neurons. In adult humans, neurogenesis is limited and occurs in specific areas like the hippocampus, a region crucial for memory and learning. The drug is effectively designed to target these regions, enhancing the natural growth of neurons and even initiating neurogenesis in areas where it doesn't typically occur. From what we see, 112 appears to use a virus vector for delivering its genetic payload into the brain cells, as viruses are efficient at penetrating cell membranes and inserting genetic material into the DNA of the host. The green flecks in the eyes of subjects treated with ALZ-112 suggest a genetic alteration, an unintended integration of the viral genetic material into the host genome that ends up leading to other genetic changes. These are responsible for the enhanced cognitive abilities seen in bright eyes, suggesting a broader impact on gene expression related to brain function.
All I need is your approval for human trials.
Well, for this, you're gonna need the board's approval. You only get one shot.
One shot is all I need.
As we return to the lab, the senior ape caretaker, Robert Franklin, portrayed with an endearing blend of warmth and frustration by Tyler Labine, tries to extract Bright Eyes from a sanctuary. Unfortunately, her unexpected aggression and subsequent chaotic sprint through Genesis, culminating in a tragic display of primal fury and a fatal encounter with the building security, casts a long, ominous shadow over the drug's future. In a swift and stark reversal, Jacobs, shaken by the spectacle, declares the drug project defunct, much to Rodman's dismay. The ambitious head of Genesis exemplifies corporate greed and the ethical ambiguities of profit-driven scientific research, with David Oyelowo embodying the cold, calculating side of corporate ambition. Despite Rodman's fervent pleas, Jacobs remains unyielding as he orders the termination of the remaining test subjects. The plot thickens as Robert ends up revealing a surprising discovery to Will, a baby ape hidden in the cell of Bright Eyes. This revelation turns their assumptions on their head. The aggression of Bright Eyes was not a side effect of the drug, but a maternal instinct to protect her offspring. Tyler Labine embodies a sense of humanity and conflicted morality to his role as Robert, a lab technician caught between the demands of his job and his ethical considerations. Dealing with the guilt of having terminated 12 chimps and unable to bring himself to harm the infant, Robert passes the burden to Will and quits, who, burdened with compassion, decides to bring the baby ape home.
Jacobs made me put down the other 12. I'm done. Be my guest.
At Will's residence, where he cares for his father Charles, a heart-rending portrayal by John Lithgow, who's grappling with Alzheimer's, a new bond begins to form. Charles, with a twinkle of playfulness, christens the baby ape Caesar, hinting at a Shakespearean affinity, but the name actually ends up being prophetic, with the ape and his namesake sharing more similarities in their characters, which we'll explain towards the end. It goes without saying that the legendary John Lithgow skillfully portrays the confusion and frustration of a character grappling with a neurodegenerative disorder, bringing a heart-wrenching realism to Charles's struggles. Inheriting his mother's modified genetics, Caesar displays staggering cognitive leaps, mastering self-feeding in a mere 2 days. His stay with Will, initially temporary, stretches to a few years, during which Caesar, brought to life by an expressive performance from Andy Serkis, blossoms into a half-grown, intelligent being, adept at conveying complex thoughts through sign language.
Right away, Caesar displayed signs of heightened intelligence. By 18 months, Caesar was signing up to 24 words. Caesar continues to show cognitive skills that far exceed that of a human counterpart. He completed the Lucas Tower in 15 moves, a perfect score.
Andy Serkis, the phenomenal pioneer in motion capture performance, infuses Caesar with a profound sense of humanity. His ability to convey complex emotions through his physicality is central to making Caesar a relatable and sympathetic character, and the linchpin of the narrative. It's important to note that Caesar's intellectual ascendancy is contrasted with Charles's losing battle with Alzheimer's, and following a distressing incident involving his nurse, Will, in a daring move born out of desperation, takes ALZ-112 canisters stored in their shed and administers it to Charles. Miraculously, he witnesses his father, once lost in the fog of Alzheimer's, find clarity at the piano keys.
Now, if I can sneak some...
I will! I'm not sick anymore. There's nothing there.
Charles's condition serves as the emotional and motivational backdrop for Will's research, and his interactions with Caesar highlight the complexities of memory, aging, and familial bonds. Parallel to this, Caesar's curiosity and longing for the world beyond lead him to an escapade in the neighbor's backyard. This innocent venture, however, spirals into chaos when the neighbor, Hunsaker, portrayed with palpable agitation by David Hewlett, confronts Caesar and injures his leg. Amidst the turmoil, Will and Charles intervene, rescuing Caesar, but not without consequences, and the pivotal moment juxtaposes the burgeoning divide between human and ape, and the inevitable clash of the two worlds. Resorting to subterfuge to secure medical attention for Caesar, Will takes him to a zoo, where a vet, Caroline Arana, portrayed with an astute charm by Frida Pinto, enters the fray. Caroline's encounter with Caesar unveils the ape's growing proficiency in sign language, a skill so advanced that he even slyly suggests through gestures that Will and Caroline should consider dining together.
Okay, what's she saying now?
He thinks that you and I should have dinner together.
She also brings a perspective grounded in animal welfare and ethics, often offsetting Will's scientific zeal, with Frida Pinto's portrayal reflecting a balance of professional confidence and personal warmth, contributing significantly to the film's positive human dimension. In a bid to quell Caesar's growing restlessness, a trip across the iconic Golden Gate Bridge to a redwood forest is arranged. Here, a poignant moment unfolds as Caesar, initially clinging to Will, extends his arm in a gesture of supplication, seeking permission to explore the wonders of the woods. With a nod from Will, Caesar joyfully ascends into the treetops, symbolizing his burgeoning independence and deep respect for his adoptive father. Fast forward 5 years, and the dynamics have evolved. Caroline is integrated into the Rodman household, and Caesar, now donning human attire, reflects an intriguing amalgamation of ape and human traits.
Come on!
A routine forest visit unveils Caesar's inner turmoil, sparked by a confrontation with a dog which he notices has a lead like him. When the ape asks if he's a pet, Will explains he's not, and goes on to say that he was his father. Wanting to ease his confusion, Will ends up taking him to the lab and admits his mother and others like her were killed there, which is why he took him in.
My mother's dead. Thing is, she was given medicine, like the medicine I give to Charles. She passed it on to you. That's why you're so smart.
Meanwhile, Charles faces a grim reality. The initial success of 112 wanes as his condition deteriorates, prompting Will to conceive a more potent variant. Tragedy then strikes closer to home when Charles, ensnared in the clutches of dementia, tries to drive Hunsaker's car, which ends in calamity, setting the stage for a dramatic escalation in the already fraught relationship between the Rodmans, their extraordinary ape, and a world unprepared for the repercussions of their scientific endeavors. Witnessing the altercation from his attic vantage point and observing his adoptive grandfather being aggressively confronted by their neighbor, the primal instincts of Caesar begin to surge. Unsurprisingly, he leaps into action, displaying a ferocity unseen before, culminating in a violent attack that results in Hunsaker losing a finger. The tension reaches a crescendo as Charles, recognizing Caesar, pleads with him to stop, leading to a moment of clarity for the ape.
It's okay.
The incident inexorably alters Caesar's fate, leading to a court-mandated relocation to a so-called primate sanctuary. But the reserve, under the dubious management of John Landon, portrayed by Brian Cox, and his son Dodge, Tom Felton, embodying a youthful cruelty, is a far cry from a haven. Unfortunately, the ape feels betrayed at having been abandoned for trying to protect his family, and despite Will assuring him that he'd be back in a couple of days, Caesar howls with sadness. Brian Cox brings an air of pragmatic indifference as a sanctuary owner, highlighting the bureaucratic and uncaring side of animal management, while Felton, known for playing antagonistic roles, effectively channels a sense of entitlement and cruelty as Dodge. Dodge's brutal treatment of Caesar, including his continued insults and a cruel episode with a fire hose, starkly contrasts with the nurturing environment provided by Will. Here the ape realizes that not all humans are compassionate, beyond that some are cold-hearted. After being told by the court that it would be 90 days before he could appeal Caesar's effective imprisonment, left without a choice, Will turns to his boss. In a huge gamble, he confesses his covert experimentation to Jacobs and pitches the need for renewed testing, leveraging the drug's potential to augment human intelligence.
My father didn't just recover, he improved.
You mean increased intelligence?
It's not conclusive, but yes.
Meanwhile, in the hostile environment of the sanctuary, Caesar encounters Rocket, portrayed by Terry Notary, the alpha male who forcefully asserts his dominance, and an insightful orangutan, Maurice, played by Karen Konoval, who shares Caesar's knowledge of sign language. These interactions mark the beginning of Caesar's deeper understanding of his kind and his place among them. At the same time, back at Genesis, we see the development of ALZ-113, the next iteration of the drug that catalyzed Caesar's intelligence. Overseeing the testing, Will selects an ape named Koba for the initial trial, but Koba's harrowing experience with the drug, coupled with an accidental exposure of Robert to ALZ-113, sets the stage for unforeseen consequences.
Apes have amazingly strong immune systems. Sorry about that. These guys are more resilient than I am.
Excuse me a sec.
ALZ-113 effectively represents an advanced and more aggressive evolution of its predecessor. Depicted as a modified airborne version of ALZ-112, 113, also known as the Simian flu, is designed to stimulate neurogenesis and repair neurological damage. However, its effects, particularly on the apes, suggest a far more potent impact on cognitive functions. The Simian flu is seen enhancing the cognitive abilities of apes by enabling their brains to self-repair and regenerate cells, leading to significantly increased intelligence. Of course, in the same way the genetic modification was passed on from Bright Eyes to Caesar, this advanced intelligence is also inheritable, passing on to the offspring of the affected apes, which opens a Pandora's box that will be impossible to contain. In contrast, the virus has a fatal impact on humans, attributable to a comparatively weaker human immune system. It should also be noted that there are parallels between the effects of the Simian flu in humans and the characteristics of Ebola. Both diseases share traits of high contagion and the development of hemorrhagic fever as a primary symptom. In humans infected with ALZ-113, symptoms escalate from persistent nosebleeds to severe hemorrhaging from the eyes, ears, and mouth, ultimately leading to death. This could be due to the more efficient method of delivering the therapeutic genes into neural cells, or a broader range of genes being forcefully introduced, affecting various aspects of brain function. What is certain is that the genetic modifications induced by ALZ-113 appear to be more profound than those of ALZ-112, as indicated by the rapid and significant cognitive enhancements in Koba and the slow demise of Robert. As we cut back to the sanctuary, communicating with Karen Koneval's Maurice, who imbues the orangutan with understated wisdom and calm, making the ape a quiet yet powerful presence in the film. Through sign language, Caesar learns that they're taking some of the chimps to Genesis, further cementing the sense of betrayal he feels from Will. And when Caroline and Will arrive to see him and realize he might be getting mistreated, their attempt to rescue him are dashed by John, who tells them they can't leave without a court order. Feeling truly abandoned, it's here that Caesar begins to turn his back on his human family and hone his attention on the plight of the other apes. In a desperate attempt to reverse the inexorable decline of his father's health, Will brings home ALZ-113. However, Charles refuses the treatment and surrenders to the silent embrace of death that very night, reflecting the notion that there are some things that shouldn't be meddled with. The aftermath sees Will and Caroline sifting through his possessions, where Will's gaze lands on a copy of Julius Caesar, symbolizing the Shakespearean magnitude of the saga unfolding. Similar to Julius Caesar, Caesar the Ape is beginning to rise to a position of power and faces challenges to his authority and the loyalty of those around him. Both characters are central figures in their respective stories, driving the action and grappling with themes of leadership, loyalty, and revolution. At the primate sanctuary, after Dodge brings some friends and continues to torment the apes, the cunning Caesar steals a pocket knife from them without their notice. This act of thievery sets off a chain of events. Caesar liberates Buck, the mighty gorilla portrayed by Richard Ridings, who brings a sense of brute strength tempered by loyalty, and subsequently orchestrates a showdown with Rocket, the reigning alpha. In a dramatic display of power and strategy, Caesar asserts his dominance not through brute force, but through a calculated strike with a steel gas can, and by displaying that the gorilla was also on his side. As such, the dynamics of power shift as Rocket, recognizing the allegiances between Buck and Caesar, concedes his alpha status. Notary's physicality and expressive performance capture the initial aggression and eventual loyalty of Rocket, making him a dynamic and evolving presence in the ape community. And Caesar's ascendancy is further solidified as he develops a sense of unity and solidarity with the troop. His discovery of a walkway and control mechanisms for the enclosure's windows signifies his growing mastery over his environment and his growing need for emancipation. As Will does his best to confront a moral dilemma at Genesis, Jacobs, blinded by the allure of profit, disregards Will's concerns about the potential impact of ALZ-113 on humans, forcing the frustrated and disillusioned Will to resign in protest.
These tests need to be contained. You have no idea what kind of damage it can do to people.
Yes, well, that is why we test it on chimps.
At the same time, Robert, who returned to Genesis and was inadvertently exposed to the virus, begins to exhibit alarming symptoms. Looking for Will at the Rodman residence, he encounters Hunsaker instead. A sneeze, seemingly innocuous, becomes a vector of contagion, hinting at the looming pandemic, with Robert's subsequent demise in his apartment foreshadowing the widespread ramifications of the virus they created. Much to his surprise, after bribing the caretaker, Will's attempt to remove Caesar from the sanctuary ends in an unexpected refusal. You see, Caesar, now fully awakened to his identity and purpose, chooses to stay and turns his back on him. This act, seen by the other apes, emboldens him to chant at Caesar in appreciation. The plot then escalates with a thrilling blend of rebellion and intelligence, and as the sun sets, he instructs Rocket to feed the hungry chimps with cookies he'd stolen, and begins to execute a multi-level daring escape. He manages to infiltrate Will's home, stealing the potent 113 from the refrigerator, and returns to the preserve to share this intellectual boon with his fellow apes. Hilariously, he makes sure to damage Hunsaker's vehicle as he left, before releasing the canisters in the sanctuary. The following day, John observes the apes, now all with green eyes, engaging in an assembly that resembles a conference, a scene he dismisses as mere animal eccentricity. And it's here the apes, poised to return to their cages, witness Caesar's defiance against Dodge, their abusive caretaker. In a climactic moment, as Dodge lashes out with the iconic line,
"Take your stinking paw off me, you damn dirty ape!"
Caesar retorts with a thunderous "No!" His first audible word, marking a turning point in the ape revolution. While Dodge electrocutes himself trying to tase Caesar, who responds by hosing him down, in a surprising turn of mercy, Caesar actually spares Rodney, who'd been gentle with the apes, confining him to a cage instead. As dawn breaks, Will's discovery of the deserted facility, the open canisters, and the terrified Rodney saying that Caesar spoke sets off an alarm bell, causing him to swiftly alert the authorities, sensing the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, Caesar, now a leader of a burgeoning Ape Uprising, orchestrates a division of his forces. He sends Buck, the formidable gorilla, to the zoo to rally more apes, while he leads another contingent to Genesis, the epicenter of the saga. The tactical move effectively highlights their evolving strategy and cohesion under Caesar's leadership. The narrative converges as Jacobs, oblivious to the chaos, arrives at Genesis, only to find it under the dominion of Caesar and his newly liberated 113 enhanced apes. This pivotal moment perfectly encapsulates the film's central theme, the collision of human ambition with the untamed force of nature, embodied by the rise of the apes. The crescendo of the uprising unfolds with the police, grappling with the unprecedented challenge, calling for reinforcements. In a bid to quell the rebellion, Jacobs commandeers a police helicopter, while below, Caesar's motley crew of chimps, orangutans, and gorillas, now a formidable assembly, advances with a noble intent to avoid human casualties. Right now, they do not want war, only freedom. But with humanity unwilling to give up dominion that easily, it seems as though war is inevitable. Meanwhile, Will and Caroline, piecing together the news of the ongoing turmoil, deduce that Caesar is steering the apes towards their familiar haven, the Redwood Forest, accessible via the Golden Gate Bridge. As the apes approach the bridge seeking only their freedom, a tactical standoff ensues. Caesar, displaying his burgeoning military acumen, splits his forces again. One faction ascends the suspension cables, while another daringly swings beneath the bridge, effectively outmaneuvering the police blockade. Despite the brutality with which the officers treat the apes, Caesar continues to instruct them not to kill the officers and respond with the same malice, but merely to disarm them. It's here that in a dramatic aerial pursuit, Jacob spots Caesar and orders a targeted attack with a bloody Gatling gun, believing that the fall of Caesar would demoralize the apes. However, in a display of loyalty and bravery, Buck sacrifices himself to bring the helicopter down, a poignant moment that leaves Caesar mourning the loss of a comrade and finally understanding that peace with humanity was likely impossible.
Come on. Come on.
Christopher Gordon brings a menacing and scarred presence to Koba, effectively portraying the character's aggression and deep-seated anger resulting from past abuse, and angered by everything they've seen. As the apes head to their new sanctuary, Caesar gives Koba permission to knock the crippled helicopter and Jacobs into the watery depths below. At the same time, Will navigates the chaos-ridden bridge to reach the forest and is attacked by Koba, who is forced to back down at the side of his leader. His reunion with Caesar is laced with bittersweet emotion and a pivotal revelation. As Will pleads with Caesar to return home, Caesar, embracing his destiny, utters,
Caesar is home.
a profound assertion of his newfound independence and identity. It signifies his acceptance of his true nature and his role as a leader, and the moment underscores a central theme of the film, the search for identity and belonging. In this moment, Caesar realizes that his home is not with humans, but with his own kind, in a place where they can live freely and on their own terms, something Will is forced to accept. Caesar is effectively evolved from a submissive, innocent being into a leader who challenges the existing order, a clear mirror to that of Julius Caesar, his namesake, who was also a transformative figure in his world. The portrayal of Caesar as a thoughtful leader who must navigate complex social dynamics and make difficult decisions for the well-being of his community draws a parallel to the Shakespearean character's leadership and charisma. Additionally, the exploration of the consequences of rebellion and the struggle for freedom resonates with the themes of political power and the fallout of revolution in Shakespeare's play. Both Caesar the Ape and Julius Caesar become symbols of change, challenging the status quo and altering the course of history forever. As the narrative closes, the camera shifts to Hunziker, revealed to be a pilot and an unwitting vector of the ALZ-113 virus. His nosebleed at San Francisco International Airport, juxtaposed with the global destinations flashing on the departure boards, ominously hints at the impending pandemic. It's also important to note that intertwined with the main story is a subtle yet significant subplot, the ongoing reports of the Mars probe Icarus, now lost in space. This narrative thread, woven throughout the film, leaves audiences pondering the fate of the astronauts upon their eventual return to an irrevocably altered Earth, a fitting allegory to the Icarus myth and a nod to the unforeseen consequences of human ambition and experimentation.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes is the first live-action film that has its main character as a thoughtful, self-aware, feeling animal.
At its core, Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a gripping tale of scientific ambition, ethical dilemmas, and the quest for freedom. The film masterfully explores the consequences of humanity's relentless pursuit of scientific advancement, often at the cost of moral considerations, and does a remarkable job at getting you to sympathize with the animals. Caesar embodies the themes of identity, belonging, and the struggle for autonomy. His journey from a domesticated ape to the leader of an uprising is not just a physical transformation, but also a profound exploration of what it means to be sentient. I also really love how the film delves into the complexities of communication, showcasing how language and understanding can be both a tool for control and liberation, way before Caesar even releases ALZ-113 into the sanctuary.
Caesar is truly a new paradigm in filmmaking, and because of the extent of the technical challenges of making this movie and it merging with the creative.
We are breaking very new ground here. I think Weta have done something that's quite extraordinary.
Rise is a visual tour de force, largely due to its pioneering use of motion capture technology. The CGI apes are rendered by Weta Workshop with such detail and emotional depth that they become the heart and soul of the film.
He's one of those actors that's embraced the technology because he understands the potential of what it can achieve. And he's one of those actors that really understands that every nuance that he gives is conveyed onto the screen.
The facial expressions and body language of Caesar and his troupe, achieved through this breakthrough, add a layer of authenticity and immersion that was rare in CGI characters back then. I'm looking at you, Scorpion King. And the action sequences, especially the climactic scene at the Golden Gate Bridge, are a spectacle of well-choreographed chaos, blending CGI and practical effects seamlessly.
Trying to show this emotional journey of Caesar is actually a very subtle kind of thing, and it would be pretty much impossible to do if we didn't have Andy Serkis basically acting out that journey for us, and then we're able to replicate it.
The set design effectively captures the various worlds the story traverses. From the sterile and cold environment of the Genesis Labs to the lush, natural beauty of the Redwood Forest where the apes find sanctuary, each setting is crafted to reflect the mood and themes of the film. The Ape Sanctuary, with its stark and oppressive cages, contrasts sharply with the freedom and naturalness of the forest, symbolizing the transition from captivity to liberation, making the environments characters in their own right.
It was a world first. We had to create the Golden Gate Bridge as a live, physically built set, but we then had to have performance-captured apes on that bridge, and we therefore had to use all of the technology that Weta brought to a real location.
Build all the anatomy for the creature, its skeleton, its muscles, the skin.
Even nerve bundles and stuff like that, because what we really try to do is fill the entire inside of the creature with the stuff that actually drives it.
The sound design is equally impressive. From the vocalization of the apes to the sound accompanying their movements, everything is engineered to be both realistic and expressive, effectively bringing them to life.
In trying to find a way of Caesar speaking so that it didn't feel too human-like, we had to experiment with the speed of delivery, connecting thought to word in a way that you believe an ape would do it. So we would then kind of work at what sounds believable and feels believable for Caesar's rhythm.
Caesar is home.
The editing is also tight and purposeful, managing the pace and ensuring that the story moves forward smoothly, while allowing enough time for character development and emotional beats. While the cinematography by Andrew Lesnie is noteworthy for its dynamic and immersive quality, capturing both the intimate moments of character interaction and the grand scale of the action scenes to great effect.
Unfortunately, because we were doing motion capture in the photography that we were doing, you couldn't just put cameras wherever you wanted to. So we ended up having a fixed row of cameras along the green screen wall, but there were also cameras that were on movable towers that we could kind of position in and out here.
This is our other calibration device. It's we call it the L-frame. It looks like the coordinate system and a graph. So we place it out here so the cameras can see it. And between the wand and the L-frame, we can figure out where we are.
The film succeeds on multiple fronts. Its story and themes provoke thought and discussion, its visuals set new standards in filmmaking technology, and its set design complements the narrative beautifully, creating a cohesive and immersive cinematic experience. It had a significant impact on the film industry. It revitalized the classic franchise with a fresh and thoughtful approach, blending action with a compelling narrative. And its success paved the way for its sequels, which continued to explore and expand upon the themes and storylines, while helping to bridge the gap between them and the original series. From its engaging narrative and character development to its technical achievements in music, sound design, editing, and cinematography, the film ends up being both entertaining and thought-provoking, leaving a lasting impression on viewers. It's a script that takes a well-worn franchise and breathes new life into it, managing to do something prequels and sequels often fail to achieve, respecting its source material while charting its own course. In the hands of Jaffa, Silver, Wyatt, and Circus, the story of Caesar became not just another blockbuster, but a thoughtful exploration of what it means to be both human and humane.
At one point, we looked into using real apes, and for a variety of reasons, we just didn't do it.
Of course, it would be an irony to tell the story of the exploited and the mistreated and use live apes to do that. I don't think that's where we wanted to go, so we had the choice of exploring what we could do with performance capture.
With that said, that's all for today, folks. A huge thanks to everyone that requested we cover Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and if there's anything else you'd like for me to cover, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.
No!